As we experienced a major February freeze weather-wise, so too were conditions in the GTA housing market last month. Sales were down by 6.3% over February of 2025 and a double-digit drop in new home listings.
So let's talk more about the numbers this morning with TRREB's Chief Information Officer and Market Analyst Jason Mercer. Jason, always appreciate you coming in and help us understand these numbers here. And I know that TRREB is anticipating kind of an uptick in the second half of this year. Uptick doesn't sound like huge raging demand. It just sounds like it's going to go high from kind of close to the bottom, which it appears to be now.
Yeah, I think it's possible we will see a bit of a year of two halves where turning the page from 25 into 26, we've seen more of the same where sales are off in comparison to last year, and so too are listings and price. I think where we might be seeing a bit of a change, though, is that new listings dropped off by a much greater rate than sales over the past year when you look at February. And so if that continues, we could start to see less competition or more competition, between buyers and a bit of a solid footing for price. And I think that's one of the pieces of the puzzle that a lot of buyers that are on the sidelines are still waiting for. They're waiting to see, prices sort of flatline, and then they'll be more confident moving into the market and thinking they'll see some sort of appreciation in the future.
Yeah, and there hasn't been any, or there won't be any recent interest rate cuts as well. So that might be kind of contributing to the cool down. But when we talk about the single family detached home, which is kind of all the rage.
That's what people want.
That's what people
the dream.
want. That price has gone down. I mean, it's still expensive, but not as expensive as it once was. So is this the right time for someone who's able to afford it to jump in right now, despite the lack in listings?
I think it's a really good point. Like, if you think about how much affordability has improved, certainly for detached homes, that really across the board over the past, say, year and a half, we've seen a downward trend in borrowing costs until recently. They flatlined, though, and we've seen a downward trend in prices as well. So if you think about, a round number, like $1 million in the GTA, and say, 2 years ago, how much income would have been required to carry that mortgage versus today, went from about $220,000 to between, say, $150,000 to $160,000 today. So that's a real improvement. And so I think there are a lot of buyers that are saying, you know what, like, it looks like now may be the time to move back into the marketplace. I think the two catalysts will be, number one, seeing price find some support, and number two, a little bit more certainty about what a relationship is going to look like with the United States vis-a-vis trade.
And that's really the thing. The uncertainty is such a conundrum right now, because as much as, we haven't signed a new deal or sort of any deal kind of with the government right now. We're still working under CUSMA, but it even seems that if you sign a deal with Trump, he could change it on a whim anyway. So that's the kind of thing. How big of a factor does that fall into your overall numbers, for the last really 12 months at this point?
I think it's been a major factor. Like, if you think about the economic base of the GTA, a lot of that, whether it's in the manufacturing sector or the high order service sector, like, a lot of that is pointed, to export markets. And obviously the largest one is the U.S. And so we're waiting to see how that shakes out. I mean, the U.S. market and our relationship to it is important, but also, how we transition with other trading partners around the world. And so people are waiting to see, well, if the U.S. market isn't going to be as big of a factor anymore, has the government made moves to mitigate or offset that with relationships in other countries, and I could take advantage of that in my employment situation.
And I'm also curious, Jason, about the interplay that the rental market is having on the buying market right now when it comes to homes being sold. Are people who are not listing their homes to sell right now kind of choosing to rent out their properties, perhaps?
Yeah, we have seen a real increase in inventories in the rental market as well. And I think, if you think about a first-time buyer, obviously they've seen a real improvement in affordability on the ownership side of things, but they've also seen an improvement in affordability on the rental side. And so if you're taking a bit of a wait-and-see attitude right now because of the economic conditions, perhaps you're going to wait a little bit longer, maybe negotiate a better rent and look at purchasing down the road, say in 2027 or 2028.
Interesting. Okay, always fascinating to break down these real estate numbers. Jason Mercer, good to see you again this morning.
Thanks very much.
for being here.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming, Jason. Appreciate it.
You bet.